Good morning and welcome to another episode of Eve Speaks in our ongoing series of Clarity in Crisis. With us is our esteemed guest, Dr. Brown, Dr. Gloria Brown, who will be imparting her knowledge and experience with us from over the past 20 years. Please be engaged, ask any questions, whether you're watching on the live broadcast or the replay. So today we are going to be focusing on the body's connection to the spirit. And before I even jump into that, I just want to say again that here at Eve Speaks, our focus is to become the next best version of ourselves. And we understand that self-care is an integral part of our well-being, focusing on both the mind, the body, and the spirit, or the soul and spirit. So today, Dr. Brown, thank you again for joining. And tell me, why this topic? Why is it important to discuss and talk about the soul's connection?
Well, it's important.
Why is it important as it pertains to clarity in this crisis?
Well, it's important because it makes a big difference in how we are able to function in or out of crisis. The connection between our body and our souls will either lead to good health or poor health. And for that reason, I'm focusing on that this morning, helping people understand the connection.
Connection. And what is the connection? Before we even get to the connection, why don't you tell us, please, what is the soul? It's not so,
Oh,
some people don't know the definition of the soul. What is it?
The soul is very much a part of us, although we can't see it. It's the intangible part of ourselves. And most people believe that it will continue even after our bodies are gone. In fact, in the early 1900s, people referred to one another as souls, not people. And so there was an understanding there that there was a part of us that was very important and that will continue on in life and after.
Really? So tell me then, why should I be concerned about the soul's connection to the body? Why should anybody be concerned?
Because it affects the way we feel and how we see people, events around us. And that makes a very big difference. Pretty basically, we can either see things from a positive point of view, which helps us to want to engage with other people and to accomplish tasks, or we can see things from a negative point of view, which makes us want to withdraw, and that interferes with our ability to go forward and accomplish our tasks, because most of us can't. We need other people on some levels to get to the next level.
Need other people on some levels to get to the next level. I like that. That's very important that you're talking about it's important that we focus on, the outlook, because it's true, when I'm feeling like the sky is falling, I don't perform at all. As you know, I struggle with anxiety and anxiety disorder, as I outlined in my book, Peace Beyond the Splinter. And when those negative emotions hit, everything falls off the cliff. So I'm really glad that we're taking the time to focus on the mind's or the body's connection to the soul. Really, they're all intertwined, the soul, the body, and the spirit. But today the focus is the soul. So thanks for that definition. Also, I wanted to ask, how does the body or the soul affect the body, or vice versa? How does it affect it?
Well, the effect The effect on the body, well, I think I need to back up a little bit. And that
Okay.
is to explain that there's another force affecting our soul. And that force has either a positive or a negative effect on our soul and our body, how we feel, and then on our physical body.
I see.
Meaning that in other words, if we are experiencing negative feelings, that's going to create problems for us in our body, and that those feelings register in our body and causes us to be tense, and that tension can then at some point in time lead to disease.
So what you're saying is that different spirits, depending on the spirit, will affect our soul. So there's and what spirits are these exactly? You say spirits, it sounds, what spirit are you talking about?
We're talking about loving spirits or hateful spirits. And I'm not talking
spirit versus the hateful spirit. Okay.
Right. I'm not talking about this intangible thing, which they are, but for the most part, we experience them through other people. Other people, when they come into our presence, they're either bringing love with them, and that creates comfort for us, or they're bringing hate. Now, the question of hate can sometimes be tricky in that hate doesn't always look like hate. Sometimes it looks like love. And that can create all kinds of confusion for us. Perhaps one practical example of it could be, let's say if you're involved with someone diagnosed with, or you may not know the diagnosis, but they may be someone who's completely self-centered, a narcissistic person. That person usually doesn't come to us and say, oh, well, you know, this is who I am. I'm going to deceive you and then make you think life is great. And then from there, I'm going to make your life a living hell. No, they come initially giving you probably everything you ever thought you wanted in life, leaving you as if you were in some sort of fairy tale. But after a time, things change and there's a confusion in your mind and in any of our minds that we encounter people like that. And that is, but wait a minute, you said that you were there for me, but you're actually saying something else. But our need, our desire to want that person in our lives sometimes overrides our ability. And that's where the tension comes in. And when that kind of tension comes in, if it's there long enough, it will lead to some kind of discomfort and disease.
Discomfort and disease. Wow. So these spirits that you talk about, they manifest in the thoughts, the will, the intellect, the emotions, and imagination. So how do people, you want to expound on that a little bit?
Sure.
More?
In other words, the soul consists of what you mentioned. The mind with your thoughts, that's key. Your will, your intellect, your emotions, your imaginations. Now let's say that you're a loving spirit. We all make mistakes, but basically we guide our lives by principles. And those principles say that we want to be loving people, and we hope other people are also, who are coming into our lives, are loving. Encounter somebody who's not. They're coming through your thoughts. And as they're coming through your thoughts, if they are not if they are a loving person, then your will is going to be in agreement. You're going to be in agreement with them. There won't be any friction. You'll feel good, and you'll have full access to your intellectual capacity. Emotions will be at ease, and your imagination will be to consider what's the next best thing that you can create to help yourself and to help other people.
Right.
And that is going to leave your body at ease, E-A-S-E, at ease.
At
Okay?
ease versus disease. Okay.
Right.
So, and give me an example of how the hateful spirit manifests itself, because it interacts with us, right? Registers in our thoughts and then ends up in our bodies, correct?
Yeah. Well, the manifestation that we experience is extreme discomfort. It's discomfort, confusion. That's when you're calling all your girlfriends and anybody that will listen to you to say, well, I just don't understand. Why is this happening? Why is that happening?
Right.
It would be easy if there was a sign, if they came with a sign and said, I'm a no good Nick, but they don't come with that sign. In fact, they usually come looking very well, having things, many times.
Sweep you off your feet, basically. The knight is shining in your armor. And it doesn't have to be a man, by the way. It doesn't have to be a man. It could be a woman, it could be a mother, it could be a father. Wow. Yes. So this narcissistic personality is definitely one to be aware of, because once you're entwined, you can't tell. It's hard to distinguish.
Well, let's say, well, for some people, it's hard to tell. For people who have had issues in the past and have not had the proper guidance and support, it becomes confusing. For someone who's had good support, loving parents, you're going to experience that, what's going on, very briefly, you see, but pretty much you're going to reach a point where you say, you know what, I don't know what's going on. This doesn't feel good. Goodbye. Because you have support, you feel good about yourself. But the person who is confused and have very good support and here is being told, I have the life that you always wanted. That's where confusion comes in, because you really don't want to see what's going on. And that now affects your intellect. So you can't use your abilities to the fullest extent. And then as far as emotion is concerned, that's where you're an absolute mess. I think I mentioned it before. One young lady put it like this. She said, I feel tore up from the floor up, you know? In other words,
it just sounds
absolute chaos. And with absolute chaos, what happens is you become paralyzed, at least for a time. And then that paralysis can then go on to cause lots of problems.
So hence we're seeing the importance of how very, very important it is to understand that self-care is really intertwined and really interdependent on all three aspects of our being. And because sometimes I tend not to worry about all these things until something starts to feel uncomfortable. But if I'm busy taking care of myself along the way, the mind or the soul and the spirit and the body, then I'm more likely to get, like notified that something is wrong. I can identify, okay, something is going down that is not consistent with overall well-being and health. Is that correct? So I can't ignore one versus the other. And I think one of the things that we tend to ignore is the things that we can't see, for the most part. Or we can see when we're overweight, but we can't necessarily see that something is, when we feel this discomfort, and it's easy to dismiss it and distract ourselves. At least I've done it with other things until it becomes overwhelming. Have you encountered that in your practice, your private practice?
Yes, I think that's where that disconnect comes. You see, the disconnect between what you feel, what you see. It's pain. It's pain that's pain that you're not prepared at this point in time to deal with. And so what you do is you push it down, you push it away. And you can push it away so far, so deep. I'm talking about immediate stuff. This doesn't even include things from early childhood, because the psychologists say that unless you support, you have good coping mechanisms. But if you didn't grow up with good support, the coping mechanisms won't be good. And so from early on, you learn how to cope in a way that doesn't meet your needs. And you have thoughts that are not accurate, but these things you're always pushing down because you can't deal with it, you see? And so you have the past stuff that you're pushing down, and then you have the present stuff that you're pushing down, and all of those things combine to create a real disconnect. And so counseling is pulling those roots up bit by bit so that you can actually see things clearly. That the fear that you feel isn't really real. It was real at one point, but it's not real now. I tried to give an illustration of that by using Dr. Yvonne Collis's book, To Dare, It's Easier to Succeed Than to Fail, where he talks about real fear and exaggerated fear. And by this time, all those fears have become exaggerated because they're no longer real. That comes together to disconnect us from our reality. We see it in a distorted way, you see?
Yeah.
And so
I can certainly identify with that very clearly, because as I mentioned, I struggle with anxiety. And one of my symptoms is that I start having thoughts that my skin is decaying. Now that's not real, I know that, but the thoughts will just keep coming, or I start to feel really worried and frightened. And there's nothing around me to frighten me. But because I grew up in a household where dishes were being smashed, I tend to get like that, just afraid for no apparent reason. So it's so true that when there's a disconnection between any parts of these components, the soul, the body, the spirit, then yeah, it does create chaos, because I can personally speak to that. And it does register in the body, because then my heart starts to palpitate, my hands sweat, I can't sleep. I mean, it's just havoc. So I definitely, I can speak to the fact that, you know, self-care in all its glory is important on all levels. So I want to thank you for that. If anyone has questions, please send them in to Dr. Brown. We try to anticipate some of the questions that you have, but sometimes we can't. So if you have questions, you can certainly send them in. Dr. Brown, is there anything else that you think the audience needs to know in terms of the body's connection, or the soul's connection to the body?
The big thing is to realize that the connection with the people with whom you associate make a big difference. Because if they are negative people, that's going to lead to discomfort and fear, at the very least fear. And fear interferes with our ability to trust other people. And that's crucial for moving ahead. And it also interferes with our peace. So important to
interferes with our peace, big peace right there.
Yes. Yes. So it basically You want to live in peace, not in splinters.
Yeah, she's pushing my book for me. Peace Beyond the Splinter. Please pick up a copy. That's a book I wrote to talk about my own journey with anxiety and the importance of self-care and taking care of the mind and how we think and the body and the spirit. I want to say thank you for those who have joined us. Winona, thanks for joining, and Simone, thanks for joining. We hopefully we will be able to answer questions you may have. If you have any, you can send them in. Dr. Brown will be happy to answer those. And also we have available, Dr. Brown is paying it forward to her community. As long as they come through this platform, Eve Speaks, she'll be lending her 20 years of experience free of charge to support us during this crisis, because especially during this pandemic, understanding the importance of taking care of the mind, the body, and the soul becomes paramount. It's always important, but now it's really like taking center stage, because there's so many different stressors from the economic fallout, the physical or the health fallout. It's just so much, parents, relationships on all different levels. So please take advantage by going to the eSpeak webpage and sign up for the support group with Dr. Brown. Again, she'll be giving this free of charge. And I just want to say thank you for joining us today. And please visit our group, Angie Speaks, Stronger Than Splinters. And in the meantime, please continue to strive to be the next best version of yourself. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.